to Faith and Fellowship podcast. Starting our time here. We're glad to be here. This is our second episode since we've taken a little bit of a break, and we're stoked. We're continuing on from our previous episode. If you have not listened to that, or I guess now watched that, you can go back and do that. We encourage you to do that. We won't do much recapping here. But here with me in the studio, I have our co-hosts, Lyric Kanan and Pastor Kirk Schull of artcity.church. And let's see if I can remember which sound effect it is. Let's go.
Good job.
Thank you. Yeah, Lyric can't hear it. And we have our guests, Lee and Angela, from our congregation here at artcity.church, who have been telling their stories. And it's been super awesome. A couple things before we get into it. First is I'm realizing that our camera setup is very... I don't know the word I'm trying to say, but basically, if we're all sitting up, we're blocking each other, which isn't the end of the world. But for you listeners out there, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to try and set it up higher maybe next time, and we'll try and figure that out so you can at least see all of our faces or most of our faces for the most part.
Lyric, can you lean forward?
Dude,
so you
it's
can block?
hot in here. That's what I was trying to get her to do.
Yeah, we can all like a little bit. Lyric, you lean forward a little. You lean forward all the way.
Why are we not running the AC?
The AC's on.
But
Lies.
before we get into the story, little icebreaker question for everyone to answer: pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
100%.
Oh, I don't know if I can be your friend anymore,
No,
Angela.
see, the
What about
pizza we
you?
have in America is not
As
pizza.
long as
like,
I'm putting it on after it's cooked.
oh yeah.
So like the
while
pineapple's
so you're
got to
not
be
a fan of
cold.
like cooked
yeah,
pineapple?
like while I'm
Grilled
eating the
pineapple's
pizza,
great.
I'll put some pineapple on it.
Yeah, either way, yeah, pizza has to have pineapple.
I'm going to surprise you.
Wait till we'll have him over for a barbecue sometime.
Yeah.
And we'll do the grilled pineapple,
Love pineapple.
on the burger. And
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Like a teriyaki
that sounds
burger
really
or
good.
something.
yeah,
Is that kind of-
it's a kind of a twist on that. Yeah.
I love pineapple.
Well,
I think it's the best
if
fruit.
Lee, if that's the criteria to go over to their house for barbecue, I like pineapple.
I'm in too.
I love it. Yeah.
I like barbecue. I mean pineapple.
No, I would say for me, at one time I would have said no, but I would say it's okay now
Yeah,
because my wife and my daughter.
love it.
Yep.
some
And
people
I
like anchovies on it, so I don't want to hear anything
See,
about pineapple.
I do not. I can't eat pizza if it has pineapple on it. At least in my experience of pizza ever, I don't like it. But that's just me. Opinions are like
well,
armpits,
some
right?
people are wrong, some people are right. You're wrong.
have you ever heard that? So I butcher it.
He butchers it every time.
But if anybody has
like
has
armpits.
different opinions, everybody's got opinions are like armpits.
Everybody's got
Everybody
them.
has them, and nobody thinks theirs stink.
Something like that.
Something
like that.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's how we have discussions around our table all the time. We have an okay sized family, not compared to what you guys grew up in, but we can be around our table having discussions, and and that could be a little segue into we want to pick up the story, but just before we do that, I know you said you're the youngest of
Of my
your
mom's.
biological family, and where do you rank in your biological?
I'm lower middle.
Lower middle.
Yeah.
Did you feel like there was two sets? You were close to some siblings that were around you, but some of them you really didn't know because there were so many?
Right. Yes. Especially as I got older, and even now, there's some siblings I'm really close to, and others that I only see at funerals or weddings.
I
It's
can't
sad.
imagine a funeral.
Yeah, that's crazy. With us, we have 5 kids, and yeah, I can't imagine having. I know that that's not just an FLDS thing or even an LDS thing. Honestly, we have always felt odd. This is the only place we've come. We've been here for almost a decade now, and we haven't felt like we were the weird ones. I used to go to restaurants, and our kids are close, and we would go and we had this one time we were in Arby's, I think, and our kids were really small, and we were doing the whole child thing. It was very challenging to take your kids to a restaurant at that age, and there was a guy with his son sitting across the restaurant, and he could see me, and I could see him, and I could see him doing the whole counting with his eye thing. And he looked at me, and I'll never forget it, man. He said, "Hey, don't you know what causes that?" Like, and I just remember looking at.
Referring to?
Did I know what caused having these kids so I could stop it? Because, and we're in a public restaurant, and my kids are there, my wife's there, and it took all the restraint I had not to just go off on this guy.
Right.
But that's the way it was. A lot of
we would
people
always get, because I grew up in a family of the same size as yours, we would always get, going through grocery stores or whatever. The first question was always, "Are they all yours?" to my mom. And she said, "Yes." "Oh, God bless you." That was always what they'd
I
say.
grew up as an only child. So it's like,
Yeah. Well, California,
yeah.
right? And you have family here, but you grew up in
It
California.
was an LDS doctrine to have multiple kids. You
Right.
To multiply the years. So
Can you talk into the...
Oh, yeah. I didn't say anything.
The difference with
Words,
us
but-
is we didn't go to Arby's.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Well, we in 2000, when we got married in 2019, we invited all our close friends and family to our wedding. We ended up with over 200 people.
Wow. And my
So we're
wife
just
thought
like,
we had a big
"Wow."
wedding.
We had a lot of people.
And this was close family.
Right.
Oh,
right.
man.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And I just think when we came here, it was like, you know what? Everybody, we're small. We don't have a lot of kids. And so, well, when we left off, you guys had moved down to Colorado City, and Warren Jeff took over officially as the prophet. And then you guys had talked about your fathers being kicked out of the group. And why did that happen? And how did that, we kind of want to pick up there and how you guys kind of gotten to where you're at now. So, but why would that happen?
So in 2004, Warren really, is that when he started the property in Texas?
It was in 2003.
2003. So he was building a new Zion in Texas. Nobody knew it at that time. Only very few that were on like the property deed or whatever. But as a community, we knew that he was leaving Colorado City and he was going to build Zion somewhere. And everybody was really preparing, trying to be qualified to go to this new place, Zion. And a lot of the families at that time, were kicked out for various reasons. Your dad was kicked out.
My dad was kicked out because his family was wicked.
You can't even see it anymore.
Because he couldn't raise his family and he couldn't raise them in a way to qualify to go to Zion.
Yeah, and I don't even remember, like, my dad was kicked out in the middle of a meeting, a Saturday work meeting, with my grandpa and a few of the other Barlow brethren. And the actual directive in that meeting, I wasn't personally there, so I don't know, like, the words that were used of why they were kicked out. My dad was tainted, and that's some of the words that was used, and his family was, and he was, kicked out at that time, just really we didn't really know why, other than he was not a good person.
Was it just like a decision, or did it have to go through channels or have a trial, or was it just like, nope,
It was in the middle of a meeting.
It was just an absolute decision.
The Lord wants David Jeffs, which was my dad, and my grandpa, Dan Barlow, and several of his brothers were just asked to leave the community.
And so you got to stay, and you can't talk to them. Either of you guys can't talk to your dad.
Yeah.
He's out now. Who's like the man raising you? Or like,
Well, yeah. So that goes into a whole nother
Yeah.
chapter, basically. My dad married one of the last remaining Barlow guy that didn't get kicked out, and she became his 10th wife.
So your mom married another man.
Yeah, and then my dad's second wife married a
so
different
wives
guy.
got to stay.
Wives-
Men are gone.
Wives stayed, men.
But now we were separated from not only our dad, but from our other mom and all our step siblings, because her dad had 2 wives, but the 2 wives married different men.
So wives are just commodity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we both married into these. Well, my moms both married into these huge families, and it was a huge adjustment. And I was 13 at the time, so yeah.
And you were?
I was 15, almost 16, I think.
But a couple of years, like 2004, 2005, it was happening like every few months, different men were being kicked out. And Warren wasn't even in the community all the time. He was gone to Zion and then back. And then a few more people would get kicked out. Gone to Zion, come back. More people were kicked out.
It seems like competition was kicked out.
It was like revelation that these men were...
Especially with her
men
dad.
are going to be coming up here like, I'm going to be the only man.
100%.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And anybody that had somewhat of a authoritative figure or even respect,
influence on the community, like her grandpa.
Yeah.
Those were the first to be kicked out.
So Texas is being done at this point where you guys are living. Do you ever make it to the New Zion? Is that where the story takes a turn?
No, we never did. No.
My other step siblings did with the family that they were in, but I never was worthy. But like we were praying every hour of every day, like as group prayers, to go to that place.
Wow.
Do you have like set criteria for who makes it and who doesn't?
I'm sure in his mind he probably did, but as far as I know, I don't think so.
We were all writing letters every week, giving them our testimonies, confessing anything. It was an intense, like, the community just became very, what's the word?
It was taut. It was just, it seemed like something was about to explode every single second.
It became very intense just as a whole community.
It was very, very intense. And then...
And it was years of it.
Yeah. In 2006, when Warren was finally arrested, then that was kind of the... quite a bit relaxing.
Because you're still in it when he gets arrested.
Yeah. At least in my mind, it was quite relaxing. I don't know how you felt, but it just... There wasn't a chance that he would come into town and kick more people out, or it just relaxed a little bit. And then 2 years later, in 2008, then they raided that compound down in Texas and took all the children. There's over 400 children that they took from their families and put them into camps and stuff. And 3 of her siblings, her step siblings,
were part of that raid.
Wow.
And taken
put into foster care. It was a very real thing and trauma on a lot of kids.
And his official, I don't know. That's what I'm asking. So Warren Jeff's official charge, was it he got arrested for like child molestation? Or was it multiple charges?
There's multiple charges. There was charges in Utah, Arizona, and Texas.
Okay.
But
I didn't know if it was like fraud or financial.
I think the fraud and financial came later, but most of it was underage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does your story? How do you get out of this? Because now, how does that happen and you guys find each other? But how did you get out? Because you got out before you found each other.
Right. But after that raid, everything relaxed even more.
Okay.
And that only
just
lasted
real quick. I'm sorry for sake of story. Did somebody take over after Warren Jeffs was arrested?
He ran everything from prison.
Wow.
Through letters and phone calls and all sorts of stuff. Mostly through his brothers.
Well, and what happens to the Colorado settlement when Texas gets raided? Are you guys like, oh, they're coming for us next? Or like, what happens to you guys?
No, not necessarily. At least I didn't feel that way. I don't know.
At that point, we thought that Colorado City was no longer a worthy place.
Well,
and,
that's because he said that.
And so we were all just wanting to go to the Zion. And so that wasn't really even a concern to us at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he ran everything in prison and it ran a little more relaxed, I felt like, for about a year, and probably until 2009 or so. And then it got really, really intensely tight and crazy. And I wasn't necessarily involved in that. That's when I started just, okay, I know that I'm done with this. In my mind, I'm done with this. I had a pretty good job. I really liked my boss. He was FLDS, it was an FLDS company, but he was a fairly relaxed guy and had a lot of perks and benefits for working for him. And I was getting paid good. So I was just like, I'll just ride out this job as long as I can, because I worked with my brother and my mom worked for the same company. So it was a good.
But your theological belief stopped.
I was done. But the people that were still there and still believing, it got terrible for them.
Well, he started a new, a whole new.
And she was on that.
Order. I don't know what's the correct word. The United Order is what it was called. And people had to be, and that was the only people that were part of the church. And if you weren't part of the United Order, you were non-members, and you were not part of the church. And so being part of that was a big deal. And that's when it got a lot more intense. He never became part of the United Order. And
so I became a non-member of the church.
So you were just kicked out, essentially.
He lived in his own.
My mom. I was living in a house with my mom because the guy that my mom had married, he was kicked out by this time.
Oh, second time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
So her and all her children moved into a house, and I was the only one living there that wasn't a member. And so they got told
they're coming for you.
They
now.
got told to move to a different house, but they didn't have a room for me. And so I just, okay. And so I just went and lived with one of my friends in a small little trailer house until
but still in Colorado City.
But he couldn't eat the same food.
I couldn't eat with them.
Members.
I couldn't eat the same food as them. I couldn't.
You're a
do
Gentile.
Yeah, basically.
Well, he was repenting.
Well, I was supposed to be.
But they started the storehouse where only people in the order had, like, you could only get food, commodities from that storehouse.
Every dime that you make, everything you buy, everything that you have and already had gets put on a list, and you bring it all to the the storehouse. And it's no longer yours. I mean, literally, except for the clothes on your back.
So was your paycheck getting tithed
Not
out of your mind? Oh, okay.
But all my siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so and then after that, you can go get what you need, and only what you absolutely need. If you owned, I don't know, if you owned a bike and some tools and whatever, and they were all in your shop, and you don't use them anymore, or you don't absolutely need that chainsaw for chopping down a tree today, it stays there.
And you got to go rent out your own.
Basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Question for you, proselytizing. Could anyone just come join the FLDS and convert?
No. Well, they probably could have. It would have been an intense screening process that they would have got discouraged with and lost interest in. I mean, yeah, I bet the screening process would be 5 years.
We didn't have enough connection with the outside people in general to ever have converts.
Someone want to come join.
But there were a couple people that tried joining after that raid in Texas. But
that made them want to join.
Yeah, but that screening process,
Yeah,
they just never had the trust. I mean, the FLDS, very untrusting. And so nobody ever ended up joining. But there was dozens of people that tried joining.
I'm assuming no minorities were allowed. That's how it was with the other. Okay.
No. There were some American Indians that were part of the FLDS. But
Interesting.
other than that, yeah.
How old were you at this time?
By the time I left, I was early 20s.
Okay.
I'm surprised you weren't married off.
Oh, no, I was way too
another
unfaithful.
thing.
Oh,
Well, when Warren went to prison, then marriages pretty much stopped because he's the only one that can perform marriages.
Yeah, that's right.
So there has not been any
not
marriages.
pretty much stopped. They absolutely
Yeah.
stopped.
Oh, wow.
And this United Order, then Warren was putting out new Revelation pamphlets, books. They published books of Revelations, and
Is he still running it right now from prison?
yes, but he's not real stable. Like I don't think there's that much going in and out.
But there's still families down in
There's-
Colorado City.
Not in Colorado. Well, maybe in Colorado City, but probably not more than 50 to... I would be surprised if there's even 100 people in Colorado City. They are spread everywhere now.
Okay.
What happened to the UEP exactly? How did that get out of the...
It was being mismanaged because it's a trust that was being mismanaged, horribly mismanaged, and some of the trustees had died, and so it got placed into receivership,
Okay.
and by the
that's-
state of Utah.
so they
And-
took the land.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's when everybody from the church actually started moving out.
Because they're like, we can't stay here.
They were
We gotta
kicking
go.
people out of their homes.
Yeah.
Well, and it was their fault that they were being kicked out because they weren't signing. All they had to do was sign a paper that said, "I'll take possession of this house and I'll pay $100 a month
And back taxes.
and the taxes." That's all they had to pay. And then and they can even stop paying that $100 a month after they get the deed to the house, after they file all the papers. But nobody was willing to
work. They don't trust.
compromise.
They never got directives to do it.
And so they never did.
So they
if
never
Warren
did.
Jeff didn't tell you to, you don't.
People like sent letters in and didn't name their children for months or years because they were waiting for a name for their child.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
Yeah, there were 6-year-olds that didn't even have a name because
Warren
they
had
only
told them what to be named.
well,
and that was just
that was
their
preference.
thing. They just wanted the prophet to name their kid.
Yeah.
It wasn't what everybody did.
Boy 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come here. Boy 2. Come here.
So if
Boy
you don't
36.
mind me asking, for you, it seems like
But then
marriage-
children
Yeah.
stopped happening too.
Oh, wow. So he's just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
They couldn't have children anymore. But I mean,
In the United Order, then through
this
all
is
these publications
probably
of these
2010.
revelations, then so many things were being told to stop. A lot of different foods were told wicked to eat. Any type of marital relationships were told to stop. Men lived in sheds from their families.
They became celibate monks.
It was a very intense time.
So, question for you. Were you ever arranged to marry somebody? And I'm assuming
no.
by the time you got to that age, their marriage was banned.
Right. Right.
Gotcha.
So I never was, and there was a lot of just older girls at that time because a lot of the boys were out on these crews. A lot of them had left. And there was just a ton of just 20-year-old girls.
and now they're 35-year-old girls.
They're 35 years
They're
old.
still not married.
They're still there. Still
Yeah.
part of the FLDS
Wow.
church. I mean, half my family.
And they're waiting for the
Yeah.
prophet to get married.
In jail?
Yep.
Yes.
What happened to all his wives that he had?
Well, they're not necessarily
Yeah.
waiting to marry him, but
Yeah.
they're waiting for his
Blessing.
I hate
blessing.
to break it to him,
Yeah.
but it won't be a woman. His name's probably going to be Bubba, but
How, Angela, how did you come out and how did you and Lee meet?
So through that whole United Order thing, then my mom and actually all my siblings down to my brother that was my same age all got kicked out because of the taint that my dad had on my family.
Okay.
And it was 2 years and they were told to go live alone and not speak to one another. It was...
Angela's raising 15 kids that are all her
and they
siblings'
left
kids
their children
because-
in the community. Like they were told well, they weren't told they were going to come back, but they just assumed like, okay, we're going to go on this repentance mission. It'll be, you know, a couple months and then we'll be back with our kids. And they never came back. Well, they never got told to come back. And slowly I had a lot of my different siblings' children throughout the 2 to 3 years. And yeah, it was a
But
really,
they slowly started coming back and getting their children and just going and living their
and
life
kind
a
of
little
just
bit.
living their life the best they could. And that's kind of how my family moved out of the church and the community. Is they were all my older siblings were all kicked out. So only the unmarried siblings were left in the church. And finally, once all my siblings had pretty much came and got all their kids, is when I was like, okay, I can't, like, I didn't want to make a choice for the kids. So I wasn't going to leave them there alone. But once they had all been taken, I was like, well, to be honest, I was like, for one, I'm not going to die an old maid. and bringing it back to Christ, like, I just what I couldn't fathom is like, we grew up, it was so doctrinated and that we were the elite, the barely, like, we were the only ones going to be saved on this earth. And I was just like, that is so un-Christ-like. That is just, I just don't believe that down deep. And that is really what made me say bye.
Wow. How did
How did you guys meet?
She was friends with, so like we told you earlier, my dad's second wife married the same guy that her mom married. After
So
our
I
dads were
became
kicked out.
sisters with his stepsisters.
right?
Yeah, kind of.
And kind of just got to know each
Yeah, and so she was
Introduced.
friends with my stepsisters, and I talked to them occasionally, and they introduced us. And she was living in Cedar City, and I was living up here, I was living in St. George, but I was working in, where was I working? Kansas City at that time, doing cabinets and finish trim. And then, yeah, really from there we just moved in together in Cedar City. And then you go from here because her mom moved in with us because she had cancer.
Yeah, my mom had cancer for a year and battled pancreatic cancer. And that was a lot of trauma, and after she had died, we had got married 2 months after she had died. So
She died in February of 2019, and we got engaged in August of 2018. And we were going to get married in April of 2019.
Wow.
But her mom died in February.
And after that is what I was just, okay, I got to be out of here because of my mom dying and everything. I just was like, I got to leave Cedar City. And that's why we decided to move to Springville. Like, it was just, we drove up here, tried to find houses, and we weren't set on Springville, but it just opened up and we put an offer in on a house. And
I had terrible credit. I'm surprised we qualified because
What year was this, 2020?
2019.
2019 and in 2016 I had 3 heart surgeries, and so I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in hospital bills, and I owned a little hotshot company with a dually truck and a big gooseneck trailer, and the truck got repossessed, and I was like, okay, I'll try to make payments on the trailer, so at least one thing, I mean, even though I have nothing to pull it with, but still, the trailer is sitting in our yard. But anyway, so I had terrible credit.
was
I'm
easier back
surprised
then.
we qualified for this house, and we bought it for about $250,000, and in 2019, right before, about 2 years before the market went crazy, and then
right.
And during this time, you guys weren't a part of any organized religion, correct? You weren't seeking any of that, or
not actively seeking. No, we had conversations between ourselves that we wanted to get closer to God, and then we had one experience that really
Well, it broke us. It broke us before we could even. We were mad at God for a while.
Yeah.
In 2020 we had our firstborn, and he died at 3 days old, and that really shook just us as a couple in our faith. Just that was rough, a rough couple of years.
So we So it was a really, really tough time. We tried having another baby the following year, and it just wasn't happening. And she got diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And
I started dealing with a lot of health problems.
A whole bunch of health issues and problems, and then.
Well, you said something that I didn't know. You said that you've had 3 heart surgeries?
Yeah, in 2016. They're not necessarily surgeries, they're just a procedure.
Procedures.
It's just a laparoscopic thing that they just go in and they burn the nerve on the heart. It was a nerve that was making so that one valve in my heart, every time my heart sped up, then one valve would completely stop beating. It just would. And so the blood wasn't being oxygenated, and it wasn't going out to all my extremities.
Right.
And I framed houses for years and years, and I always get heat stroke and all this, and I never understood why. But the doctor said that's probably why, because you're just not getting the blood and the oxygen out to your extremities that you need. But
so health problems there, health problems, tragedy with children.
Yeah.
And now you have one little girl, Audley.
But we had a miscarriage right before Audley as well.
And Audley there was a complication with pregnancy.
Yes. Alloimmunization is what the medical term. It's basically, I have the Rh factor where I'm negative blood, he's positive blood. So if our baby is positive blood, then I need to get the Rogram shot, which it doesn't work in all cases, which I got with my son, but my body just didn't take it. I think I was now that I look back, I was kind of dealing with some weird health problems, and I think my body was just didn't take it, didn't receive it. So now every pregnancy, if the baby's positive, then I make antibodies that basically attack the baby's red blood cells. And so we're just heavily monitored. And Audley actually had to receive a blood transfusion at 2 weeks old.
Wow.
It's just kind of a crazy story in itself, because we went through, she said we were heavily monitored, and this is multiple appointments every single week, and going to the high risk doctors in Provo or the MFM, maternal fetal medicine, and they're watching it really closely. And then when it comes time for delivery, then I guess they forgot about us. I don't know, but they delivered the baby, and then Angela just was telling them, you've got to check her blood. You got to check her blood, and told them, and
check the billy ribbon, because it basically creates a die-off so the baby's liver takes a bit to get established and working, and that die-off can be too much, and so it raises the billy ribbon really, really high. And there's lots of different treatments that they kind of use to try to moderate that. But yeah, through that whole experience, then I had to be on the doctor's case.
but they wouldn't really listen to her, and so we were sitting down there in the hospital room, in the recovery room, and just taking it easy. And it's I guess they'll come check it at some point. And finally, they came and checked it, and then all of a sudden the door to our hospital room comes banging open, and probably 15 nurses and 2 doctors just come marching in there. Oh yeah, we're taking your baby up to NICU. So they ran her up there, and we were freaking out. And this was probably at midnight or 1 a.m. Like, what the heck is going on?
Wow.
Is this the Payson Hospital?
No, this
Provo.
is Provo.
Oh, I was going to say, that makes sense.
big-
Payson Hospital is called the Death Star. So,
But it was weird. And then they kept her in NICU for 7 days. Was it 7? Oh, it was 9 days. It was 9 days. They kept her in NICU for 9 days. And then, but every time they would give her all these supplements and different things to bring her levels down, and then they would spike back up. And then they would give her a bunch more stuff, and they would come down and then spike back up. They gave her a bunch of this on Saturday morning, and her levels were coming down. And so there was a new nurse on, charge nurse or head nurse. She's like, okay, looks like her levels are good. You guys be released. We're going to let you go. It's like, they always spike back up right after. But, I mean, what do we do? They kicked us right out of the hospital. And so we went home, and this was Saturday afternoon. Sunday afternoon, Audley
24 hours later.
Audley had a nap, and we could not wake her up.
Wow.
I was just like, okay, we definitely don't want to go through this again.
And
So-
that's kind of some of the same symptoms that my son had. And it was like trauma all over again.
So we immediately just took her to the emergency room and said, help her. And they woke her up and admitted us back to the NICU, and they kept her for another 11 days.
Wow. You guys have been through a lot. Man, I hate to even ask this question, but I want to. I need to. Could you guys come back and at another, like next week, and do another podcast?
Actually come back.
Yeah, because we're running up against the clock, and we've got something we need to do. And as we were starting this, I was thinking we could do, I mean, who knows how many episodes because of what we're trying to do, but I would love to at least do another one where we kind of start talking kind of about where you guys are at now and kind of your, the history. We basically in these first 2 episodes have gotten your story of where you came from and history, what happened. But I would love to kind of feel or hear from you, like, what your thoughts have been on your journey.
Yeah, and we would like to do that too, because that's really what brought us together as the family we are now, and and with
and even being part of Art.city.church.
Yeah.
So would you guys would be cool to maybe next week sometime or something come back?
Yeah, we can set something up.
And we can work with your schedule as much as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say this as we kind of wind down and close. I know you might be listening to this and you're like, what in the world is going on in Utah? Because you're not here. And if you're not here, you probably are asking that question. Let me point you to just one resource. If you wanted to get a book, it's called Under the Banner of Heaven. You told me the author,
John Krakauer.
John Krakauer. You can get it on Audible. You can listen to it if you're not a reader. If you're a reader, you can just buy it or Kindle or get the paper copy. And the reason it's good is it tells you a story about something that happened here, but it also gives you a background of, I think, a really good background of what Lee and Angela have been talking about with FLDS and kind of the history of it. And I would say if you're foreign to this idea, you need to know more about what's going on with that, because there's still polygamous groups out there, and that's still going on. And there's a lot of needs and a lot of things that need to be, talked about, and even help that needs to be given in some areas if there's abuse and things that are going on. And so I just want to encourage our listeners to check that out. And if you have any questions regarding any of this, of course, email us. Stuff will be in the description, and we'd be glad to follow up and talk to you more about it. But I know from me and my family, but me personally being here for 10 years, I feel like with the study that I've done, and I've done quite a bit and talked to people, but also done a lot of research, there's still so much to know, and it takes time to know this and really get into the culture and the topic, this topic and other topics along with the LDS. Because again, the FLDS, which is the mainstream religion, the Latter-day Saints, is different than the FLDS. And I just want our listeners to know that we're talking about something completely different. Maybe, of course, the origin is the same of how it all started with Joseph Smith, but there are these splits and that happen. So just encourage you to do that. And man, I can't wait. I hope you guys will come back. I've truly enjoyed this. It has been awesome, and I hope it's been a good experience for you guys. Thank you for sharing your story. And man, you guys got anything to close on?
Everything you said was great. That's a great book, a great resource. I listened to it on Spotify too. If you have a Spotify subscription, the book is on there as well. But thank you guys for coming on, and we're looking forward to doing another one. This has been awesome. This has been so cool. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for listening to Faith and Fellowship, and a production of Art City Church. It's a production of Art City Church, and hopefully you can deal with our ugly faces with this new format, and Joel looking at the camera 50 times, but double take 3 times. 2, 3. We will check you guys next time. Thank you. Check you guys. We will see you guys next time. Bye.